Hello everybody and welcome back to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. It has been quite a while. It's been a couple weeks, but in the movie news world, it feels like a long time. Obviously, if you follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, I don't think I've actually ever promoted my Twitter and Instagram, but if you want to follow me on my day-to-day basis, there'll be links down below for that. But I haven't been feeling well. 2 weeks ago I was sick, and I was going out of town. Like I mentioned before on the podcast, I was going out of town for some family business, and that was the case. So kind of just grouped together, and I just didn't feel well. And then last week I felt better, but I wanted to be 100% to do another podcast. So, and this week, I don't know if you can hear it. It feels like I'm still recovering a little bit, but I'm feeling a hell of a lot better than I did last week and 2 weeks ago. So let's get right to it. I'm not going to talk about all the movie news that came out in the last 2 weeks because that would just blow my mind. This podcast would be like 3 hours long. And I don't want to do that for my first podcast back. So we're just going to jump right into it. If you want to, of course, catch up on all the movie news, especially on days when I don't do podcasts, or weeks I don't do podcasts, I should say, you can go like the Facebook page at facebook.com/moviepit. That's facebook.com/moviepit. A link, of course, will be down below. You guys can go there and you guys can, see all the movie news that comes out over the week. Pretty much a preview of what we're going to talk about on the podcast, although I go more into detail on the podcast than I do on the Facebook page. And while I'm pipping out some of the links down below, you can also go check out my WordPress account, where it is written reviews written by me. Right now, the two newer posts that I have up there are, of course, the Power Rangers review, which I saw and it was awesome. It brought me back to childhood that I had forgotten about. So Power Rangers is up there. I got some mini reviews of Life, Chips, and the Belclo Experiment up on there as well. I'll also be soon, probably by the time this podcast goes up, I will be uploading a monthly preview of April, so you guys go check that out. And I'll also be uploading soon, or posting I should say soon, a Justice League trailer thoughts up there as well. And speaking of, or you can just listen to the podcast, because the first thing we're going to talk about is, of course, the Justice League trailer that dropped last weekend. And it's, of course, been something that everyone's been talking about, and everyone kind of went a little crazy for it. And, of course, being a nerd, I watched it, and I kept myself quiet. I didn't really post anything online about the Justice League trailer. I wanted to just kind of let it sit and see what it was like. So, and then I knew I was doing a podcast this week, so I might as well talk about it on the podcast. So let's talk about the Justice League trailer that came out.
Yeah. We have to be ready. You, me, the others. There's an attack coming from far away.
Not coming, Bruce. It's already here. The others. Where are they?
Arthur Curry, the Aquaman. It's on him.
Organic and biomechatronic body parts. He's a cyborg.
You should probably move.
Barry Allen. Whoever you're looking for, it's not me. You're the Batman?
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
One thing I can tell you is you got to be
It's good to see you playing well with others again. Just like a bat. I dig it.
Maybe temporary.
So my first reaction when I watched it was literally just a sigh. I literally just went, that was it. That's all I did. And I watched it a few times afterwards to see, what my gauge was, and then I sat back and I let it sit there for a few days, and I watched it again. I watched it again right before I started recording the podcast to see how I felt. And my reaction is still the same. It's still a mixed reaction. And this is hard because obviously we've talked a lot about the DC Extended Universe on the podcast. I've been angry at the DC Extended Universe on the podcast. It's the teaser itself is, if you just want to look at it as a teaser, not worry about what's going on at the DCU. The fact that they couldn't find and keep a director for the Batman, the fact they can't find and keep a director for the Flash, they keep moving stuff back, and all. You want to ignore all that and just look at the teaser. It's probably for many people a very effective teaser, and a teaser worked. And the inner kid in me, obviously, just having watched Power Rangers before I watched this trailer for the first time, the inner kid in me liked it. This is a movie that I would have really enjoyed if I was a kid. The realistic side of me, seeing everything going on with the DCU, talking about the DCU and everything, and talking a lot about Justice League being pretty much the final straw for a lot of people, especially for me, if it's not great, was not entirely impressed. It is a teaser. I'm going to take that into account. It is a teaser. The humor was there. The humor is something that I know a lot of people touched on. Obviously the Batman's line, "I'm rich," was one of them. And then, of course, Jason Momoa's lines. The humor's there. And I was seeing a little bit of this online for some people, and I had to agree. It almost feels like the humor in the trailer, and probably going to be the whole movie, is almost a reaction to everyone else saying the DCU movies have no humor. They don't have a grand sense of humor. Now, not all comic book movies have to have a grand sense of humor, but it's been kind of one of the pitfalls for the DCU movies that they don't rely on humor too much like Marvel. And to compare the two movies and two universes is not a valid reason to, or a valid argument to make, because obviously they're two different movies and one of them has been around longer than the other. One of the other things that really stood out to me when watching the teaser was the kind of little cameos that we saw, little appearances that we saw. So we see J.K. Simmons, Commissioner Gordon in the trailer, and I thought that was really cool. And that may be his only scene in the movie, but having him in the teaser was pretty cool to see, because it's practically almost perfect casting in a lot of ways. So that was pretty cool to see him in there. We see Amber Heard's Mira in the trailer, and a lot of people have been kind of dissecting that scene a little bit, a lot more recently. Now that everyone's kind of just like taking snapshots from the teaser and putting them up online. So there was that. We also see Billy Crudup as Henry Allen, aka Barry Allen's father. I didn't even know he was going to be in the movie. Kind of seeing him in the teaser kind of took me back a little bit, and I thought that was pretty cool. So there was that. And what was the other thing that I kind of saw? Oh, we see the Crawler, Batman's vehicle that he uses to save Wonder Woman at one point. That was in there as well. That was pretty cool. And of course, we see the Parademons in the movie. We knew they were going to be in the film, so that wasn't really necessarily a surprise, but it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see multiple of them, I should say. So we also get that cool little battle scene, and we found out, and it was released. I don't know if it was released before or afterwards, but I saw all these afterwards. So that quick little battle scene that we see, what it looks like to be like the parademons rushing another army, and from the looks of it, it looks like Amazonians. It is the prologue of the film, and it's essentially setting up kind of what's going to happen in the film. It's a prologue to the army of the parademons who came to Earth, I assume it's Earth, before to take over the world, and this army of the Amazons, the Atlanteans, and mankind at that time were the reason that the parademon attack didn't work the first time. So that was that was interesting to see, and obviously that's going to probably be the opening of the film. So yeah, there was that, and then of course we see the characters. We all see all the characters in action. You know, we saw Batman, we saw Wonder Woman doing her thing, we saw the Flash, who literally looks like the little brother who's finally getting to hang out with his older siblings. That's kind of the vibe I got. So we got the Flash. Of course, you see Aquaman, which was a big highlight for a lot of people, and of course him, you know, jumping on the Batmobile and pretty much yelling like, "Yeah!" You know, he kind of has that little moment before he jumps off and starts attacking parademons. It feels like Momoa is going to be the highlight of the film, right next to the Flash. And then, of course, the big one is Cyborg. And a lot of people have been talking about Cyborg, how he's too CGI. And the trailer, in the teaser, this teaser, it does look like he's a little too CGI. I'm not going to lie, he looks a bit too CGI. I hope they go back and touch him up a little bit, because he does just look like, he literally looks like a floating head. And this isn't me, like, bashing on DC or anything. This isn't like, oh, he's too CGI. No. Marvel has characters completely created by CGI. Rocket Raccoon, Groot, the Hulk, Thanos in a lot of ways as well. They have characters that, you know, are completely created by CGI, but at least they look good. And at least it looks like they fit. Cyborg sticks out like a sore thumb, pretty much. So hopefully they go back and touch him up a little bit, because from what I saw in the teaser, he didn't look that great. The CGI didn't look that awesome. Again, as a teaser, it was effective for a lot of people, and maybe it's because I was in that mind frame of being a kid again after watching Power Rangers. I liked it, I liked some parts of it. I didn't like the whole thing. So it should be interesting to see kind of how this goes out, and how, you know, they treat the marketing. Obviously, Justice League doesn't come out until November, so we have a long time before that to see new trailers, new scenes, pictures, posters, all that jazz. So we have a while to get to before Justice League comes out, but there you go. We might as well just stick to trailer talk. We might as well push trailer talk. This is what happens when you don't do a podcast for a while. Trailer talk early. You might as well push it up, because we have this week kind of felt like trailer week, because there's some trailers that have come out after this podcast goes up. There's going to be a new trailer for The Mummy that comes out over the weekend. At least that's what the word is online. So the other trailers that dropped, or the real trailers that dropped this week, since Justice League dropped over the weekend. The first trailer that dropped this week was the Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. It is a new film directed by Luc Besson and stars Dan DeHaan and Cara Delevingne. I think that's how you say your last name. It is based off the long-running French graphic novel that Besson was a huge fan of, and kind of the reason why he wanted to make the film. It looks really, really different. Let's put it that way. It looks really, really different. I don't know how to describe it too much. It looks like a bonkers CGI, just epic. That's what it looks like. It just looks like it looks crazy. It's just, there's a lot of CGI in the film. Not all of it looks great, but it is definitely going to be one of the most different sci-fi summer movies that you see this summer. It looks okay. I mean, I'm gonna go watch it. I'm a huge fan of Luc Besson, and I'm a huge fan of his work. So watching this, I'm gonna know what to expect, and hopefully it'll be a really fun adventure. So there's that. The first trailer for the new Stephen King adaptation of It came out, and it scared the crap out of everyone. This first kind of trailer, this teaser in a lot of ways, is really, really effective. It builds up very slowly. It shows you just what you're getting into. This looks like a straight out horror movie, and it looks fantastic. You definitely get a Stephen King vibe from it. There are, homages to the TV movie that was made. There's throwbacks to the book, which is pretty cool. And it looks like they're doing kind of their own thing as well. So it's pretty cool. And our new It is played by, I believe, I wrote down his name. I don't have it in front of me right now. It's Peter Sarsgaard, or no, it's one of the Skarsgård brothers. I forgot which one it is, but it's obviously the younger one. But he's playing the new It, and he looks pretty cool. I mean, he doesn't really have like his standout moment until the very end of the trailer. And if you haven't watched it yet, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but he pops up at the end, and the end is really what I think got a lot of people in. And it got me in, especially. So I'm looking forward to it. I was hesitant at first just because it was It, and having a lot of people are afraid of clowns, and probably because of It is why they're afraid of clowns. But I don't know. I felt like it should be. I always felt like this was going to be something that was going to be hard to sell, and the teaser pretty much proved. I'm still, keeping myself, at a distance, but I'm more interested in watching it now because of this teaser. So, good on you guys. New trailer for Spider-Man: Homecoming.
What's up, guys? So, to become an Avenger, are there like trials or an interview?
Do me a favor. Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Just stay close to the ground.
You're the Spider-Man from YouTube. Can you summon an army of spiders?
No, Ned, no.
Do you know him too?
I stole his shield.
Can I try the suit on? Badass.
The rich and the powerful, like Stark, they don't care about us. The world's changing, boys. Time we change too.
These weapons are crazy dangerous.
Listen, Peter, forget the flying monster guy. There are people who handle this sort of thing.
The illegal weapons ferry was at 2:30. You missed it. No.
What if somebody had died?
I was just trying to be like you.
I wanted you to be better. I'm gonna need the suit back.
But I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
I screwed up.
You need to stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders.
I want you to understand. I'll do anything to protect my family. I know you know what I'm talking about. So don't mess with me. Because I will kill you and everybody you love.
My friends are up there!
The guy is still out there. I've just got to do this on my own.
Just don't do anything stupid.
I got this.
All right?
Yeah.
It is a really good. It's a really good trailer. We get a lot more of the story. We get a lot more of Robert Downey Jr., which is surprising. We knew he was going to be in the movie, but he is in this trailer a lot, and he has a great scene with Tom Holland, Peter Parker, saying about the suit, and I thought that was really cool. I thought that's a really cool scene. But we get a better sense of the villain, Michael Keaton, playing Vulture. We get a pretty decent look at his suit in some shots, and we get a feel for what his suit can really do. There's a great shot of him picking up Peter by one of his wings, and it's a really cool. I didn't catch it at first, and I thought, I didn't catch it until the second time, just how really cool that shot was. But it's a really cool trailer. We get a better sense of the world and the characters. It's very action heavy as opposed to the first trailer where it kind of relied more on the humor. This one's a lot more action heavy. It shows a little bit more of the drama, and it shows a little bit more of kind of the character of Peter Parker. And I thought that was pretty cool that they got to show that. Some people are saying maybe it shows too much, but I don't think so. I think we're good for a good run for them. I think there's a lot of stuff they haven't given away yet, hopefully. But yeah, it's a good trailer. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you watching. If you've seen it already, then watch it again. Why not, right? And finally, the new trailer for War of the Planet of the Apes came out, and it looks fucking awesome. I'm trying not to swear on the podcast too much anymore. It looks awesome.
He's a smart one, isn't he? What are you gonna name him?
Do they look like just apes to you? He saved our lives. He was remarkable.
Apes together! Strong!
You're him. You're Caesar. We've been searching for you for so long.
I did not start this war. I fight only to protect apes.
Human gets sick, ape gets smart. Then human kill ape. But not me. I run.
There are times when it is necessary to abandon our humanity, to save humanity.
They must pay. I will finish this. I offered you peace. I showed you mercy.
You talk about mercy? No matter what you say, eventually you'd replace us. That's the law of nature. So what would you have done?
What did the humans promise you? No matter what you do, you'll never be one of them. You are
We are the beginning!
apes together, strong! We are the beginning! Apes together, strong!
Have you come to save your apes?
I came for you.
It looks great. We get brand spanking new footage. We get a real good sense of what this movie is going to be about. Obviously, we hear some little we don't see it, but we hear lines from the previous films, and there's a lot of great visuals in this movie. Obviously, Caesar talks a lot better in this film. It looks like he's speaking almost without being broken anymore. Because you usually have like a lot of these pauses. He looks like he's developed completely, and it looks like other apes are starting to talk better as well. We see Woody Harrelson a lot more. We get to hear a lot more of his philosophy in this film, and we see Caesar talking to another ape in this movie. There is a ape working, a gorilla, it looks like I should say, working with the humans, and you see those parts of, you hear those parts of the trailer where he's talking to the ape, or to the ape. It's pretty interesting to see that, and I'm pretty sure it's going to lead to a great story point in the film. But this trailer just looks, everything that they have been releasing for War of the Planet of the Apes has just gotten me more and more excited, because it looks really good. It looks so great. It looks like it's becoming more and more gritty and dark, and it's telling the story of Caesar, almost kind of not necessarily a reluctant leader, but he certainly has his obstacles, and it's one of those things where it's like, you don't know how it's going to end up. There was that interesting shot. We don't see it in this trailer, but in the last trailer, there was that interesting shot of Woody Harrelson's character, only known as the Colonel in the film. He has a gun pointed at Caesar's head, who's kneeling down. We don't see it in this movie, so I mean, there's a lot of people saying that maybe Caesar dies in this movie. It's a rumor. It's speculation. It's not even a rumor. It's speculation. Don't quote me on that. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did that, to be honest. But I'm on board. I'm on board for War of the Planet of the Apes. It looks great. I have liked this new reboot that they've been doing. Everything so far has been great. Caesar's a great character. Andy Serkis is phenomenal in that role. And everyone else, it's I don't know. It just looks really good. And I don't know what else to say. Go watch it. Go watch the trailer. It's pretty great. So all the links to the trailers will be down below, including the ones that we haven't talked about or that I haven't mentioned. There's a few trailers down there that I didn't mention on the show today, but they'll be down there as well. So let's move on to this week's news. And speaking of Spider-Man, let's talk about something that scared the crap out of everyone when it came out. Could Spider-Man leave the Marvel Cinematic Universe after the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming? Of course, fans are very excited about Spider-Man Homecoming, obviously with the trailer coming out, and they're very excited that Spider-Man is now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, this news came out and it kind of got everyone worried for a little bit. So CinemaCon is going on right now, which is basically the Comic-Con for theater owners. And at speaking to comicbookmovies.com, former Sony Pictures head Amy Pascal, who was one of the ones that got this deal made, who got the deal to include Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, said this very interesting quote, to say the least. I'm going to read the whole thing, but of course the part that really got everyone's attention was the first half. So here's what she said. She said, quote, "One of the things that I think is so amazing about this experience is that you don't have studios deciding to work together to make a film very often," which is actually true. In fact, it may never happen again after we do the sequel, because Sony and Disney and Marvel all decided that the right thing to do was to allow Peter Parker and Spider-Man to be in the MCU and to work with the Marvel guys and have them produce this film. And I think that this is a very rare thing for three companies to do, and very brilliant thing for them to decide to do, because there are so many stories that you can tell again and again and again about Spidey, and this is something that we have never been able to do in any other way. So it was a very selfish thing that very smart part of all the companies. I think I wrote that last part wrong. Anyway, of course, the main thing that she said at the very beginning, that where is it? In fact, it may never happen again after the sequel. And that kind of got everyone, that kind of just perked everyone's ears up. So what basically Pascal kind of let out, I don't think she actually meant us to say this, is that Sony, if they want, can decide to bring Spider-Man back to Sony Pictures and just that. Cut Marvel out of the deal and brings, again, not just produce the films themselves, which they can do because Sony Pictures is the rightful owner to the Spider-Man movie rights. They have control over the deal with Tom Holland is with Sony Pictures. He has a 6-picture deal with Sony Pictures, not Marvel, with Sony. And Sony has the distribution rights. They bought in Marvel to help them out and to produce the films, so Marvel has some creative control. But at the end of the day, Spider-Man is a Sony Picture, the movie anyway, is a Sony Pictures property. So before, everyone gets all crazy, like, oh, they can't do that. Yes, technically they can. But let's look at this all around. Everyone's kind of freaking out. But Marvel knew this. This was part of their deal. It was a short-term deal at the very beginning that Marvel and Sony would share Spider-Man for certain films. Of course, the first one was Civil War. Spider-Man will be a part of Avengers Infinity War and presumably Avengers 4. And after that, that's it, because Tom Holland has a 3-picture deal. He said, I think it was like late last year, he has a 3-picture deal with Marvel and a 3-picture deal with Sony. Not in those terms. He said he has 3 movies with Marvel and then 3 standalone Spider-Man movies. So if Sony wanted, after Spider-Man Homecoming sequel, they can be like, oh, we're going to do this third one on our own. We don't need you guys. And Tom Holland would have to agree because he has a deal with Sony Pictures. So Sony can do this. But in my eyes and in some other people's eyes, it probably won't happen. They'll probably, at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming sequel, they'll be like, oh, we want to, rework our deal or something and involve him in more films. Which is the right move to make, because let's face it, the Spider-Man brand over at Sony Pictures wasn't doing so well at the very end there. Obviously The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't a massive success with fans as they would have hoped, and which is one of the reasons why they were like, okay, yeah, let's reboot him, but let's reboot him with Marvel and see where this goes. It's interesting that this kind of news came out. I don't think Amy Pascal was really thinking too much about what she was saying. She's a smart woman, obviously, but I think she kind of let that slip, and I don't know if she kind of meant to say that, but it should be interesting to see kind of where this goes. I don't think we'll be seeing, it's not like Spider-Man's going to pop in other films. I think they're going to save, Marvel is going to save him to involve him in the more bigger films, like Captain America Civil War and the Avengers movies. But it should be interesting to see kind of how this works out. Obviously, we have a long way to go before the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, so let's not worry about this now. Let's just relax, enjoy him when he's in here. Just settle down. And speaking of Sony Pictures and Spider-Man, when I was gone, I really want to talk about this item when it came out, and obviously I was sick, so I couldn't do it. Sony Pictures is developing a solo Venom movie, finally. And some news broke out this week that Sony Pictures is developing its Venom movie as the start of their own universe, and the fact that it will be rated R. At least that's what they're hoping for. So like I mentioned, 2 weeks ago, Sony Pictures announced they were finally moving forward with their solo Venom film. I don't know where Batman came from. And they even gave it a release date. It's coming out on October 5th of 2018, which means the filming could start sometime this year, or it should start sometime this year. Well, according to Collider, they're the ones that broke this specific news, Venom is getting the R-rated treatment, and will start Sony's own new cinematic universe. And just to let you know, this will not involve Spider-Man in any way. Sony Pictures is developing their own universe, and Venom will not be involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Sony Pictures is essentially making their own universe, starting with Venom. Spider-Man will not be involved in any sort of way, at least from the sounds of it. And yeah, so they're aiming to make one with Venom. It sounds conflicting, because it's like, yeah, people have been waiting for a Venom movie, and okay, they're going to be making it rated R. That's awesome, but it's not going to involve Spider-Man. And obviously, if you're a fan of the comics, just a fan of the character in general, you know that Spider-Man and Venom have a long, long history, and a great history. And taking one of them away from each other, it's going to be interesting and intriguing to see kind of how they approach that and how they accomplish that without ruining the character in any sort of way. So it should be interesting. But Collider notes that anything could change. They are aware that things could change. The film doesn't have a director yet, and we don't know any story details. So they could bring in a director and be like, oh, we're going to make it rated R. And he's like, nah, I don't want to. Or she. Who knows? And they're like, oh. And Sony will be like, oh, we'll call you. But making a rated R Venom movie, I think that's kind of cool. I think that's kind of interesting. And I think with a character like Venom, especially if you're hopefully this is the plan, going to include Carnage, making it rated R really opens up the possibilities of what you can do, obviously. But with a character like Venom, that really opens up the possibilities of what you can do. So it should be interesting to kind of see where this goes. I don't know if a lot of people trust Sony to make their own universe, because obviously they tried that with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and we all saw how that turned out. Hopefully they learn from their mistakes and will not be doing that mistake they did with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, packing too much into the Venom movie. Obviously, we'll see what happens. Obviously, they have the release date, so as more news comes out, obviously, I will let you guys know. Aaron Sorkin is meeting with Marvel and DC. We're continuing on with the video game. Why did I say video game? With the why did I say video game? With the comic book trend. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I'm getting. I don't know anymore. I'm going crazy. But in this is basically the definition of what the hell is going on news. But in a good way. Aaron Sorkin says he's meeting with Marvel and DC to potentially do a film with either one of the studios. For those unfamiliar with Aaron Sorkin's name, first of all, shame on you. He is one of the best writers in Hollywood today. He is responsible for great shows like The West Wing, Sports Night, The Newsroom. He's also written films like A Few Good Men, The American President, Steve Jobs, the Social Network. He's done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of great films, and he just directed his first film called Molly's Game with Jessica Chastain. That will either come out this year or next year. They haven't announced a release date for that film yet. But the news comes from Sorkin himself. He's the one that released the news. He spoke with comicbookmovie.com over at CinemaCon, and he said this: I happen to have meetings coming up with both DC and Marvel. I have to go into these meetings and tell them respectfully as I can that I've never read a comic book. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that I've never been exposed to one. So I'm hoping that somewhere in their library is a comic book character that I'm going to love, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to want to go back and start reading from the first issue on. So Sorkin isn't really necessarily the first name that pops up when you think of comic book movies, because he does have a certain style to him. And if you know any of the shows and movies I just mentioned, you know he has a certain style. And some actors would obviously be picked up on that style right away, but for a whole film in Sorkin-like dialogue and style, it certainly would be interesting to watch. But personally, I can't think of a character or a movie that would fit Sorkin's style. But obviously he'll probably have to change. And you don't bring in someone like Aaron Sorkin if you're interested in bringing in Aaron Sorkin to kind of be like, oh, we're just gonna let you do this little thing, or oh, we're just gonna let you be a script doctor. We're not gonna. That's not. I don't think that's a wise move. If you have someone like Aaron Sorkin, you're gonna use him to his fullest potential. So. It should be interesting to kind of see where this goes. He didn't mention when he was having the meetings, and obviously, Warner Brothers and DC and Marvel, and Disney in a lot of cases, they all have these meetings all the time, and it's one of those things where it can go somewhere, it can go nowhere. But just imagine if you're an Aaron Sorkin fan, just imagine an Aaron Sorkin comic book movie. That would be very interesting to see how that turns out. Wreck-It Ralph 2 gets a new title. Disney has unveiled a new title for the Wreck-It Ralph sequel, and some plot details, some very brief plot details anyway. The title of the film will now be called Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2. Which seems like a mouthful, but let's face it, we're gonna watch it. The film will bring back the voice cast with John C. Reilly, Sarah Silverman, Jack McBrayer, and Jane Lynch to reprise their characters as, of course, Ralph, Penelope, Felix, and Sergeant Calhoun. Directors Rich Moore and Phil Johnson will also return to the film, and they talked a little bit about what's going to go on. Moore said that obviously with a film like Ralph Breaks the Internet, Moore, I should say, not Ralph, he's not a real character, or he's not a real person. Rich Moore said that they are taking the characters to the enormous world of the internet, and it's going to give them a lot more to explore. While Johnson said that the relationship between Ralph and Penelope will be at the center of the film, just like the first one. So that's pretty cool. It should be interesting to see kind of how that turns out. I was a huge fan, and still to this day a huge fan of Wreck-It Ralph. It is one of my favorite animated films of all time. It easily is one of my favorite animated films of all time. And one of the best parts of the first one was the relationship between Ralph and Penelope, and seeing that they're gonna grow on that and continue to build on that is pretty cool. Also, the new environment, it's internet gaming. It is going to be interesting. Kind of interested in seeing which games they kind of bring in and kind of stick them in. So it should, I don't know. It's gonna be good. Hopefully, hopefully it's gonna be good. Wreck-It Ralph, or I'm sorry, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2, will open on March 9th of 2018. Jeremy Renner's future in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Mission Impossible franchise has been revealed a little bit. Jeremy Renner has, of course, become a very busy man, but for good reason. You know, a lot of people are starting to trust him in a lot more roles and become a valuable player in the cast that he's in. So, Showbiz 411 has this report that says that Renner will not return as his character Agent Brandt in the Mission Impossible film because of, you guessed it, scheduling conflicts. He will be busy filming Avengers Infinity War for a good chunk of the year. He actually posted something online recently saying he's heading down to start filming. Mission Impossible 6, they're currently, of course, in production. The only confirmed casting so far is Tom Cruise and Rebecca Ferguson. There have been, talks, there have been other actors. Obviously, we talked about a few. I think we talked about Vanessa Kirby being attached as well. But right now, only confirmed cast members are Tom Cruise and Rebecca Ferguson. So he will be returning to that. Obviously, they probably won't keep him away too long. He can always come back for Mission Impossible 7, but he will not be involved in Mission Impossible 6. When it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously, like I just mentioned, he's going to be filming Avengers Infinity War and also Avengers 4, since they're filming practically both films back to back. But Showbiz 411 states that Renner could potentially, it's a rumor right now, appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp. At the moment, the only confirmed casting for that film is Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Pena, and Michael Douglas. But it should be interesting to kind of see where that goes. Ant-Man and the Wasp will be filming in Atlanta, where a bulk of the Avengers Infinity War filming will be taking place. So Renner's already in Atlanta at that point, so might as well just keep him there and do the rest of the film and do that film. It's only a rumor, so obviously things can change, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. Obviously, Hawkeye and Ant-Man have some history together now because of Captain America's Civil War. So it should be interesting to kind of see if that plays out later on. It's a bit of a bummer that he won't be appearing in Mission Impossible 6, although his character is one of those characters that can come and go. But I don't know. It should be interesting to kind of see where that plays out. And if he is in Ant-Man vs. the Wasp, that should be pretty interesting. I can only imagine they'll probably do that arrow trick one more time. So we'll see what happens with that. I wasn't originally going to report on this, only because it was one of those things where it was like, is this really news? But it was so interesting when I read it. I was like, Disney's Frozen was originally going to be a lot different. A lot. Obviously, Frozen is one of those movies you can't really escape from, but originally the movie was going to be a lot different. Speaking with Entertainment Weekly, one of the producers of the film, Peter Del Vecchio, detailed how Elsa changed from the beginning of the film to, or from the beginning process of filming to what we saw at the very end. So here's what he said. He said, with all movies we work on, eventually the film tells you what it needs to be, and if you're smart enough to listen to that, it leads you to a different direction that perhaps preconceives your notion. So when we started off, Anna and Elsa were not sisters. They weren't even royal. So Anna was not a princess, and Elsa was a self-proclaimed snow queen. But she was a villain and pure evil, much like the Hans Christian Andersen tale. Because, by the way, Frozen is based off a actual story. We started with an evil female villain and an innocent female heroine, and the ending involved a big epic battle with snow monsters that Elsa had created as her army. So that's very different, obviously. He went on to say that Frozen was going to open with a prophecy that said a ruler with a frozen heart will bring destruction to the kingdom of Arendelle. We then learn that Elsa was a scorned woman who was stood up at the altar on her wedding day and froze her own heart so she would never love again. However, we would learn that Elsa was not the villain from the prophecy, because in the final act, Elsa creates the mentioned army of snow monsters to attack our heroes, while Kristoff, as we all know, has his quote, as he put it, Han Solo moment, and comes to help Anna. To halt Elsa's attacking army, Prince Hans, who's, if you've seen, of course, the movie, you know who that is, triggers a massive avalanche, not caring that the avalanche could kill everyone, including everyone in Arendelle. Anna realizes that Elsa is the only hope and convinces her to use her powers to save the kingdom. The twist is that the prophecy from the beginning is not about Elsa, but about Hans, who has a metaphorical frozen heart. Elsa's heart then is unfrozen, allowing her to love again. So why the change? Why they change all that? According to the Delvecchio, he says, the problem is that we felt like we had seen it before. It wasn't satisfying. We had no emotional connection to Elsa. We didn't care about her because she had spent the whole movie being the villain. We weren't drawn in. The characters weren't relatable. And at this point, directors Chris Buck and writer Jennifer Lee asked two key questions. Does Elsa have to be a villain? And what if Elsa and Anna were sisters? Of course, leading to the story we all know. Delvecchio went on to say, making them related led us to the idea of her living in fear of her powers. What if she's afraid of who she is and afraid of hurting the ones she loves? Now we had a character in Anna who was all about love and Elsa who was all about fear. That led to making Elsa a much more dimensional, sympathetic character, and instead of the traditional good versus evil theme, we had one that we felt was more relatable, love versus fear, and the premise of the movie became that love is stronger than fear. The team, even now that they had this new idea of them being sisters, had a quote sister summit where Disney called in their employees to ask them about their family experiences for ideas about how to make Anna and Elsa's relationship more relatable. So the interview also went on to talk about how the ending had changed to a new approach of Elsa and Anna being sisters. So if you want to give that a read, there'll be a link down below. Because I don't want to go too into it, but there's a link down below if you want to go read the whole interview and how the ending had changed because of all that as well. So reading all that, and it's hard to imagine how now, especially, how Frozen would have been different. Because reading that and then remembering the movie is kind of hard. It's like, okay, yeah, like I know there was like this fan trailer that came out online. I think it's a few years old now, where someone reimagined Frozen as a horror movie, and they made Elsa the villain. That's essentially what probably would have happened, or what it would have felt like, this original film. But I don't know. Do you like the change they made? I don't know. I feel, again, it's hard to imagine that version of the film now that we've seen, this other version of the version we all know. But it's a fun idea to think about, isn't it? Don't you think? I think it's a fun idea to think about. So again, the link will be down below so you guys can see the whole story and go more into how the endings had changed. Let's move on to the next news item. Warner Brothers is eyeing Jordan Peele to direct their live-action version of Akira. Now, Warner Brothers is once again trying to bring the live-action Akira to the big screen. The film has been in development for years. Years! Since I started following the movie news cycle, this is a movie that's been on and off for so many years. So gone through directors like the Hughes brothers, who directed The Book of Eli, the Denzel Washington movie. A director, Rui Robinson, who directed the film The Last Days on Mars, and Jamal Colette Serra, who directed films like Orphan, Nonstop, Run All Night, and The Shallows. And it was actually Colette Serra's version that came closer to being made than any other version before Warner Brothers pulled the plug on the film. And now the studio is, of course, back at it with a surprising choice to potentially direct the film. According to the tracking board, Warner Brothers wants Jordan Peele to direct the film. Now, Peele is, of course, enjoying his massive success on his first directorial debut film, Get Out, which is very good. If you haven't seen Get Out yet, I highly recommend you do. So for those unfamiliar with Akira, the anime takes place in Neo Tokyo and follows the leader of a biker gang, Kaneda, or if I'm not pronouncing these names right, I'm sorry. As he teams up with the resistance member Ki and others to fight his friend Taitso, who is threatening to unleash his psychic powers on the city. There is more to the film, but the film is a very cult classic among many circles. Many consider it one of the best anime films of all time. Others, of course, don't think that way. Some people think it's overrated. I personally have never seen Akira, so I am nowhere in that spectrum. I have been wanting to watch Akira for so long, I just haven't gotten a chance to watch it. But Peele, while Peele did an amazing job with Get Out, it was a project that he had been working on for many years, and is one of those projects that he felt very in love with. A project like Akira is a massive undertaking. Because, like I mentioned, this has been in development for years. And the fact that Warner Brothers hasn't been able to get this project off the ground doesn't help matters. And it is an issue. Even if they get a talented filmmaker like Peele, who may or may not want to do it. If he doesn't want to do it, then obviously the project's going to lay in dormant a little longer. But to bring someone like Peele, who has directed only one film in Get Out, even though it was a massive success and made a crap ton of money off its very small budget, to get him involved in a project like this, I don't know if maybe it's the right move. It's certainly an interesting move, and if he takes the job, then I think Akira will just pop in a lot of people's radar. But I don't know if maybe I don't want to say he's not the right director, because he's only directed one film, but it definitely opens our eyes when we kind of see this kind of news item where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it with him. I don't know if that's probably the right move. I don't know. If he does it, then I will gladly get on board. But Akira is a massive undertaking film. That is definitely a very higher budgeted film than Get Out was. It's a film that has a fan following, so people will know what they're getting themselves into. He will know what he's getting himself into. So it should be interesting to kind of see where this plays out a little bit. Obviously, if it gets made, that will probably be the day the world ends, because again, this movie's been in the works for so long. But we should probably see how this works out. If Ghost in the Shell is successful this weekend, I think maybe we'll be hearing a lot more of Akira soon. And finally, the last news item of the week, at least at the time of this recording. I'm recording this a little earlier than I intended to, because got some stuff going on around here. It's my brother's birthday weekend, so I just celebrated my birthday on Monday. Woohoo! Getting older. But it's my brother's weekend this weekend as well, so I'm recording this a little earlier so we can start off the birthday celebration a little earlier. So the last news item of the week, at least at the time of this recording, Joss Whedon is set to produce, direct, and write a Batgirl movie. That's right, boys and girls. The king of nerds, Joss Whedon, is returning to the world of comic book superheroes with Batgirl. Variety broke the news that Whedon is nearing a deal to write, produce, and direct an untitled Batgirl film that will be a part of the DC Extended Universe. The report also notes that the project will feature other characters from the world of Gotham, but didn't hint at what characters they will be. Of course, Batgirl is a very popular character, and it now looks like she's getting her own movie, which is pretty cool. And she isn't the only one. Of course, we know that Batman is getting his own solo movie someday. And Warner Bros. And DC have announced that they will be doing a Nightwing movie with Chris McKay, the director of the Lego Batman movie. And yeah, so they're doing that. So that should be interesting. It should be interesting to kind of see where they go with that. For those of you guys who don't know, Batgirl is really, her human identity is Barbara Gordon, aka the daughter of Commissioner James Gordon. And she eventually went from Batgirl to playing Oracle. And I won't spoil how that happened. But of course, if you know Batgirl's history, you know how that happens. But if you want to start reading Batgirl comics or get to know the character, she's a very interesting, she's a very great character to read about as well. I won't spoil that for you guys. Either way, again, this is interesting news. Whedon has, of course, been a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But before he joined the MCU, he was working on a script for Wonder Woman years ago. of a movie that, of course, never happened because DC was like, Warner Brothers was like, nah, we don't want a Wonder Woman movie. So Whedon also knows how to handle female characters. Obviously, Buffy, the characters in Firefly. Oh my God, I'm blanking now on Alicia Dushku's character in Dollhouse. I'm blanking. But he knows how to handle women characters, and he's always been very dominant on having strong female characters. And Batgirl is obviously a very strong female character in the comics and anytime she's appeared. So it should be interesting to kind of see where they go with that. Whedon obviously will have pretty much, it seems like, full control over the project. He's producing, writing, and directing. So that means that Warner Brothers is like, we're going to let you do you. We're going to let you do you, and you just let us know what we need to do and how you're going to do it and all this other stuff. So that's pretty cool. And obviously they can tack on the director of the Avengers on the trailer and posters and everywhere. So it should be interesting to kind of see where this plays out. Even though this is really awesome, cool news, at the same time, we all know DC's problem at the moment. They have problem getting stuff off the ground. They just keep adding projects to their already big slate. And as cool as I want to see Joss Whedon in the Batgirl movie, the fact that they're adding more films to their DC universe is a little troubling. And stop it. Just stop. Stop adding movies and get a director for The Flash, and one that stays on for longer than a few months. So I don't know. It's interesting. Just stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it. I like it. I like the fact that this is happening, but just settle down. So that's all the movie news. Let's move on to this week's releases. We have 2 limited releases this week. One of them is a very limited release, so you have to check your local theater to see where this is going on. But Donnie Darko is getting re-released in theaters. I think this is kind of like a limited time thing. I don't know if it's like for a day or 2 days or just the whole weekend, but Donnie Darko is getting a re-release in theaters this weekend. Check your theaters, wherever it is you go. I don't think it's not playing in a lot of theaters, but it is getting a re-release for an anniversary. I don't know which anniversary it is, but check that out. The big limited release this week is The Zookeeper's Wife, based off the book by Diane Ackerman. The film tells the account of keepers of the Warsaw Zoo who helped save hundreds of people and animals during the German invasion. The film stars Jessica Chastain and Daniel Bruhl. It looks pretty cool. It looks pretty good. Obviously, it's based off a true story. It looks like it's gonna be a very hard film to watch. A hard film to watch, but one of those good hard films to watch. You know what I'm talking about? So there's that. The wide releases this week. We only have 2 wide releases. One of them is, of course, The Boss Baby, based off a book, actually. A suit-wearing, briefcase-carrying baby pairs up with his 7-year-old brother to stop the dastardly plot of the CEO of Puppy Co. The voice cast includes Alec Baldwin, Steve Buscemi, Lisa Kudrow, Jimmy Kimmel, and Tobey Maguire. I'm not so interested. The Boss Baby, the trailers haven't really been that appealing to me. I mean, there's a few funny spots in the trailers and TV spots, but I don't know. It's not targeted toward me. Let's put it that way. It's not targeted toward me. And the other wide release is, of course, the bigger one, Ghost in the Shell. Based off the manga and the anime, a cyborg policewoman attempts to bring down a nefarious computer hacker. The film stars Scarlett Johansson, Michael Pitt, Pilo Asbeek, I think that's how you say his last name, Rilo Fukushima, Takashi Kanto, or Beat Takashi as some people know him, and Juliette Pinochet. They are all in the film. I don't know why I said it that way. They're all in the film. Ghost in the Shell. It looks, I don't know. I mean, this is obviously one that a lot of people are very up in arms about over the casting and everything. Visually, this movie looks really cool. The visuals in this film, since they, released the other trailers and finished up all the CGI, visually, this movie looks really, really cool. Visually, it looks appealing. It looks great. How they're going to handle everything story-wise and all that other stuff, it's another story. It's been getting mixed reviews, so take that into account if you want to take that into account. I am going to go watch it, so obviously you'll be seeing my review up on my WordPress account on that. Maybe I'll finally do the special review podcast with this one. I don't know yet, but just you will see a review from me at some point for this film. So there you go. Ghost in the Shell, The Boss Baby are your wide releases. Your limited releases are The Zookeeper's Wife and the re-release of Donnie Darko for the special anniversary weekend, I suppose. So let's move on to box office predictions. Obviously, last week I didn't do any picks. Last 2 weeks I haven't done any picks. But Beauty and the Beast was number 1. It repeated box office supremacy. Power Rangers was at number 2. Kong Skull Island was at number 3. Life was at number 4. And Logan stayed in the top 5 at number 5. I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast, by the way. I know it made a very impressive number opening weekend and second weekend, but I don't. This is a tough weekend because you have Beauty and the Beast, but you also have a new kids movie in The Boss Baby. You also have the repeat viewers probably for Power Rangers. I know I'm probably going to watch Power Rangers again this weekend. And then you have Ghost in the Shell, which is going to bring in some numbers. Let's not be like, oh, it's going to bomb at the box office. No, it's not going to bomb at the box office. If it does, I will be very surprised, but I don't think so. It will definitely be in the top 5 movies this weekend. So I'm not confident in my picks this week, but I have Beauty and the Beast one more time reigning supreme this weekend. So Beauty and the Beast at number 1, Ghost in the Shell at number 2. I think it's going to be a very close battle, but I think Beauty and the Beast is going to win out the weekend again. Again, I'm not confident in all that. Maybe Ghost in the Shell will pull out an upset and be number 1, but Beauty and the Beast at number 1, Ghost in the Shell number 2, Power Rangers at number 3, The Boss Baby at number 4. I think that's probably just more personal, and Kong Skull Island will round out the top 5 in my picks at number 5. So Beauty and the Beast number 1, Ghost in the Shell number 2, Power Rangers number 3, Boss Baby number 4, and Kong Skull Island at number 5. Those are my box office picks. I could be very wrong, and I'm going to be okay with that because I'm not confident in these picks. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I know I've been gone for a while. I obviously want to fix that. Even though I'm recording this podcast early, it's still going to come out around the normal time probably. Because, you can't rely on technology too much. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Obviously, if anything else drops, I will post it on the Facebook page at facebook.com/moviepits. Link will be down below in the description area. If you want to go click on that and give me a like over there, you guys can be up to date on all the movie news, get a special preview of what we're going to talk about on the podcast, and all that jazz. You can also go to my WordPress account, movieswithchris.wordpress.com, movieswithchris.wordpress.com. You get reviews every weekend. I'm going to start putting up some opinion pieces over the week to keep that page active as much as possible. I wrote down my Justice League trailer opinion. I haven't posted it yet, but it will be going up sometime this weekend as well. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. You guys have been great. I don't know if I will be having a podcast next week. I found out that I kind of crossed my, not crossed my mind, it just went past my mind that I have a very important dentist thing to take care of. I'm having an implant done. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that I had my tooth pulled out on the podcast. If I didn't, that is the case. I'm having my implant done on Monday. So I don't know how well I will be by the end of the week. But if for whatever reason, obviously I will let you guys know. Obviously, if you want to keep up to date on the podcast, I do post about the podcast up on my Instagram account and my Twitter account. Links will be down below for that as well in the description/show notes area. But yeah, I don't know if there will be a podcast next week. There probably will be. I'm not sure. But yeah, just want to put that out there. I'm back for 1 week. So yeah, let's see what happens with that. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. You guys have been great. Obviously, I want to keep going strong with the podcast. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'm going to stop rambling. You guys have been great. Thank you. Have a safe, fun weekend this weekend, guys. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movie!